Okay, let's keep going because this is, I think, the big one that we've been waiting to get to.
As part of the assessment, the CIA had the dossier. Remember that compilation of unsubstantiated allegations dug up by a British spy about Trump's ties to Russia, attached as an annex to the assessment.
Mm-hmm.
The assessment was not based on the dossier. It didn't play a role in the conclusions. But what the report is essentially saying is that this unsubstantiated document called the dossier, it should never have been attached in the first place. And because it was attached, it casts some doubt on the entire claim.
This is a doozy, Aaron.
First of all, note the language he uses to describe the so-called dossier. He calls it unsubstantiated. It's a collection of conspiracy fiction. It's a complete lie. Every FBI effort to verify the dossier just kept leading to the fact that there's nothing here, that Christopher Steele is a fraudster. And Schmidt waters that down by calling it unsubstantiated, as if it still might be true, because he's clinging on.
And doesn't call it the
possibly
Steele dossier either.
Yeah, right. It's fiction. It's just complete fiction. It's like it's conspiracy fantasy that Hillary Clinton paid for, which I didn't hear him mention there, and that the FBI relied on, and it's just a complete joke. So that's the first thing. And then also he says that this was attached. A summary of the Steele dossier was attached as an annex, but it wasn't in the main body. He's ignoring the fact that now we know from the recent declassifications that actually there's a footnote in the body of the intelligence community assessment, and it says see annex, but by which they mean see the Steele dossier. So in trying to put forward this idea that Russia was trying to help Trump, they reference in the body of the ICA, not just as an annex, they have a footnote referring you to the annex, which means the Steele dossier is in the body of the ICA.
And let me just reiterate what Schmidt claimed. He said the assessment, that intelligence community assessment, was not based on the dossier. It did not play a role in the conclusions. And so first we are disputing the basic premise there. It effectively is in the assessment. It is referenced in a footnote. The footnote that supports Putin was trying to help Trump says, look at the exhibit, look at the appendix, right. And specifically look at the dossier. That is in the body of the report as the proof of one of the most, or if not, it is the most controversial piece of the assessment, which is Putin did this to help Trump get elected. Keep going.
Yeah, and according to these recent disclosures, John Brennan was pushing for the inclusion of the dossier because, as he told his counterparts, he said, it just rings true, which speaks to the fact that John Brennan was attached to a conspiracy theory that Trump and Russia were in cahoots and that Russia was trying to help Trump. And of course, Schmidt ignores that. And so if the director of the CIA is campaigning for the Steele fiction to be included and is saying that it rings true to him, does Michael Schmidt really want to argue that a report produced under Brennan's direction isn't influenced by the Steele dossier, especially when it's referenced in the body of the report as a footnote? So he's completely omitting the countervailing facts to undermine his narrative, which is, again, it is the norm.
All the analysts, all the Russia experts are like, we can't include this. This is total garbage. Brennan's insisting on it. The FBI is insisting on it. It's in the classified appendix, by the way, which at least 200 people get, but we know leaked like crazy to all the journalists to create the perception that somehow this document was legitimate. We know that same fraudulent document, this fiction that Aaron describes, was used to get the wiretapping, the warrants for the wiretapping. I mean, it's this hugely important document. So for Schmidt to sort of go, oh, it wasn't really important to the ICA, it's just straight up gaslighting at this point.
The CIA assessment that we've been discussing, that Ratcliffe released, says the Steele dossier was used to support the conclusion that Putin aspired to help Trump, and reads as follows. Ultimately, agency heads decided to include a 2-page summary of the dossier as an annex to the ICA with a disclaimer that the material was not used to reach the analytic conclusions. However, by placing a reference to the annex material in the main body of the ICA as the fourth supporting bullet for the judgment that Putin aspired to help Trump win, the ICA implicitly elevated unsubstantiated claims to the status of credible supporting evidence, compromising the analytical integrity of the judgment. The House Intel report, the HIPSI, that also just came out thanks to Tulsi, also states Brennan, then CIA director, refused to remove the dossier from the ICA and said, doesn't it ring true? Contradicting public claims by Brennan that the dossier was not in any way incorporated into the ICA. That's what Brennan wants us to believe. We'd never incorporated it in the ICA. It was a nothing burger to us. The dossier was referenced in the ICA main body text. This is Hipsy telling us the truth. It is referenced in there, as you just pointed out, Aaron, and further detailed in a 2-page ICA annex. The ICA sourcing errors involving the dossier violated so many intelligence community directives that the text would normally not have passed first-line supervisor review at CIA, FBI, or other intelligence community agencies. Moreover, the dossier made outlandish claims and was written in an amateurish conspiracy and political propaganda tone that invited skepticism, if not ridicule, over its content. Still sticking here with the Hipsy conclusions. 2 senior CIA officers, one from Russia operations and the other from Russia analysts, argued with Brennan that the dossier should not be included at all in the ICA because it failed to meet basic tradecraft standards, according to a senior officer present at the meeting. That same officer said Brennan refused to remove it, and when confronted with the dossier's many flaws, responded, yes, but doesn't it ring true? And then you get Michael Schmidt doing cleanup in aisle 7 with, the assessment was not based on the dossier. It did not play a role in the conclusions. This is so dishonest. It did play a role. It was an important role to support the most important conclusion. And the fact that it was in there in any way, in the annex or in that footnote that referenced the annex, was extremely controversial amongst the most seasoned Russia experts within the intelligence community, including in the CIA itself. And the reason they were overruled is because the CIA director said it smells true. Where was that in Michael Schmidt's reporting, either in the newspaper or sitting on the Daily?
And what's funny about all this is if you were someone who was skeptical of all these claims, Russia interfered, Russia hacked the DNC, Trump-Russia collusion, you were called a apologist for Russia, for Trump, a conspiracy theorist. And the line was, how dare, this was the consensus of the U.S. intelligence community. I mean, this was done on serious work. And James Clapper and John Brennan would go on CNN and MSNBC where they worked as on-air analysts and say, this was robust intelligence. Well, now we're getting, the picture we're getting from all this declassification was that actually this was just the consensus of a few people. James Clapper, John Brennan, and a few of the partisans. And they had all these people under them pushing back, including, we learned this week, Mike Rogers, the head of the NSA, saying, you're not showing us the intelligence to reach your most important conclusion that Russia hacked and leaked Democratic Party emails, which was the allegation that kicked off Russiagate. When Donald Trump, at his July 2018 summit in Helsinki with Putin, said that that Putin gave a pretty strong denial that Russia interfered. And he said, I have no reason to doubt him. There was a national freakout. John Brennan said that Trump was nothing short of treasonous, by the way, which is ironic for people not complaining about, Tulsi Gabbard accusing others of treason. Well, this is what John Brennan and everyone was saying about Trump for years, including when Trump dared question the intelligence consensus. It turns out Trump and everybody else who refused to take the word of John Brennan and James Clapper were actually agreeing with all the lower level intelligence officials who Clapper and Brennan overruled.
It's just stunning. I mean, I'll tell you, I was one of those, right-leaning people who had trust in these agencies for most of my reporting career. I really did. It's stunning. It's still stunning to me to see the veil come down and see how corrupt they were and what liars they were, what partisan hacks. It's a lesson well learned. All right, here's the last one, and this is a doozy too. SOT 57.
The FBI director, Kash Patel, declassifies a piece of intelligence that he claims shows that this conspiracy, it actually originated with Hillary Clinton.
That's how vindictive and vicious the former leadership structure here was. They withheld and hid documentation and put it in rooms where people weren't supposed to look. And it's a good thing we're here now to clean it up, and you're about to see a wave of transparency.
But are you saying... And what evidence does Patel offer to support that claim?
An email between Clinton allies in which they claim that Clinton personally approved a plan to tie Trump to Russia. But what Patel doesn't say is that a previous special counsel that was appointed by Trump's Justice Department to look into the Russia hoax determined that the email was likely a fake.
Wow.
That Russian intelligence officials had taken a range of hacked emails and made them into a composite that depicted Clinton as the originator of the conspiracy.
And presumably, the FBI director, Kash Patel, would have known that and yet still released it and treated it as a smoking gun.
Correct.
Amazing there. By the way, if you just listen to their express words, you know, in a courtroom, you would object that this was improper impeachment of Kash Patel, because first he says it was a fake. And then he says, actually what they did was they took actual emails they had hacked and created a composite. So the ultimate email he's saying was fake, but he's essentially admitting there, Aaron, that the underlying data was real and was from actual hacked emails they got when they hacked these entities, like the Soros-related entities surrounding Hillary Clinton and the DNC. But your thoughts on this claim?
Well, again, the irony, these people are complaining about relying on supposedly fake information when they promoted the Steele Dossier, for example, which is a collection of conspiracy theories funded by Hillary Clinton. So it's just a bit rich for them to try to claim a high ground here. You know, I've been cautious about these hacked emails. We're told they come from Russian intelligence. Let's even take that on faith, although I'm not even sure if that's true. But I'm not sure if I take all these emails on faith. You know, Durham is uncertain. He says, I don't know if these are all genuine, if they're partly fake, fully fake. And I think that is the line that we should take. We don't know for sure if they're true or not. If they are true, it's more evidence of what we already know. And that's my key point. We don't need these emails to know exactly what happened, which was that Hillary Clinton framed Trump as a Russian agent. I mean, it's beyond dispute. Months before these allegedly Russian emails were written, the Hillary Clinton campaign hired Christopher Steele via Fusion GPS. Christopher Steele put together a bunch of fiction about Trump and Russia being cahoots, Trump being blackmailed by Putin. Christopher Steele funneled his conspiracy theories into the FBI. He meets with an FBI agent in early July. It gets back to the FBI. A few weeks later, the FBI opens up its Trump-Russia investigation and uses the Steele Dossier as source material. We only learned, I believe, in October 2017. That's when the Hillary Clinton campaign finally admitted that they were secretly funding the Steele Dossier. There was a Clinton effort to frame Trump, and that's what the New York Times cannot grapple with because they were a part of peddling that conspiracy theory.
And all Schmidt's doing here, by the way, the trick he's pulling is he's pointing to a single part of that really large declassified annex and saying they went to the Soros guy. He said it wasn't him. Even in that interview between the FBI and the Soros guy says that some of the emails did sound like him.
Right.
He didn't say for sure that it wasn't him at all. So, you know, again, it's like there's so much complexity here, but the big picture remains the same, which is that Schmidt is creating straw men and dismissing them as a way to dismiss this much larger body of evidence. And that really what it shows is just a huge amount of information, potential criminal activity that the FBI decides not to pursue. And instead, you're basically creating and manipulating intelligence in order to paint Trump as a Putin puppet, in order to get the wiretaps, in order to leak that to the media to create disinformation. So everything would just sort of end up snowballing over time.
So what do we think the effect of the sparring between President Donald Trump and the Fed is going to be? Can the Fed take the right action at the right time? Do we trust in that? Or are we going to be looking at a potential economic slowdown as they slow roll any of their moves as they worry about his tariffs? And what exactly does all of this mean for your savings? You might want to consider diversifying right about now with gold through Birch Gold Group. For decades, gold has been viewed as a safe haven in times of economic stagnation, global uncertainty, and high inflation. And Birch Gold makes it incredibly easy for you to diversify some of your savings into gold. If you have an IRA or old 401k, you can convert that into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or just buy some gold to keep it in your safe. First, get educated. Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. Just text MK to the number 989898. Again, text MK to 989898, and you'll start the process of just getting the 411 on what it means to own gold. consider diversifying a portion of your savings into gold. So if the Fed cannot stay ahead of the curve for the country, at least you can stay ahead of the curve for yourself. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.